It's great to be here, and the event managers promised me 2 minutes to go off script, so I need you to go with me. This is not rehearsed. This has not been planned for more than about 2 hours. The context is this. A couple hours ago, I was facilitating a session on innovation. Had my head down, prepared to talk to some serious people about some serious topics, and we had some great people in the session. As I was preparing, the most inspiring thing happened to me, maybe in the last several months, I don't know, maybe the last year. And a 12-year-old walked up to my table and stood ready to participate in our session. I'd like to introduce you to this 12-year-old who is not scripted, so please be very kind to him. Phoenix, would you come on up? Give Phoenix a huge round of applause, please. Now, is this your first time on a stage this big?
Yes, it is.
All right, let me give you a mic here. Pretty cool. I assume that's automatic. There are 3 things that are special about this boy. Number 1, he's 12 and he's at this session. That's incredible. Number 2, he fought with his mom. Maybe fighting's not the right word, but he negotiated with his mom to get out of school to come to this session because it meant more to him and he thought he'd learn more as a future leader. And number 3, he's wearing this pin right here. Phoenix, what's that pin mean to you?
It means Sustainable Development Goals.
It's the 17 goals that we all want to see realized for the future world. And Phoenix, I have to say, you inspired us so much, inspired me so much, that Microsoft is pledging to fund a special Future Leaders track for the next Social Innovation Summit of 2020 that we'd like you and 100 of your friends to come to so that we can build future leaders, not just us folks, but kids your age. Do you think you could bring some friends?
Yes, I think I can.
All right, well, thank you, Phoenix. Thank you very much for being such a huge inspiration today. And I gotta say, we developed this Future Leader Track idea 30 minutes ago, and in that 30 minutes, we had 4 other organizations willing to chip in, provide support, provide hotel rooms, provide mentors. If you want to participate, we'll set up something and let's go do this because it's going to take leadership like that. It's going to take the Phoenixes of the world to really drive the change that we want to see. We know that we're living in a world that we want to see achieved through the Sustainable Development Goals. And we've seen 1 billion people rise out of poverty in the last 30 years, mainly in China, mainly in India, on the back of new economic engines. But we also live in a world where disparity between those that have and those that have not has never, ever been greater. From the 800 million people living today under the international poverty line of $1.90 per day, even though there's enough money for every man, woman, and child on this planet, if we could harness our economic engines the right way, to the 124 million people living in severe food insecurity, even though there's enough food for every man, woman, and child on the planet. And you combine these challenges with some complex geopolitical dynamics, you combine that with weather and global warming, and you end up with 70 million refugees that don't have a home, that don't have a state. That's more than any time since World War II. It's easy to say these numbers. It's hard to get your mind around what this means from a human perspective. To get my mind around what it meant, or maybe get a little bit better of an understanding, I traveled to Kakuma. Kakuma is in northeastern Kenya. It's a camp that was built in 1969 for about 600 people. They were kids fleeing southern Sudan because of persecution. Today, there are 60,000 people living in this refugee camp. As you drive through this camp, you see rows and rows and rows of makeshift shelters. Shelters that look like they were built for a year, maybe 18 months to live in. The average stay in Kakuma is about 17 years. Most people born in Kakuma only know Kakuma, and they have not gone back home. There's a special facility in Kakuma, which is the intake facility. When you drive to that intake facility, you meet mothers, you meet fathers, you meet children that have literally spent weeks walking across the South Sudanese desert to get to safety, with the only thing in their possession being hope. It was at that moment that I realized that within Microsoft, a company that has a market cap amongst the 1, 2, or 3, depending on the day, in the world, we needed to do more. Our philanthropy was having impact. Our CSR programs were having impact, but we weren't having a big enough impact given the challenges that we face, given the future that we want to see by 2030. We need to rethink our model. Now, in rethinking our model, we know that it requires a combination of stronger partnerships between the private sector, the public sector, governments, the UN, as well as NGOs that are delivering the last mile solutions and the last mile capabilities. But I would argue, and I'll be self-critical here with Microsoft, that we're not doing enough, given our position, to really help lean in and solve these problems. We must do more. It is a moral imperative, but it makes good economic sense in terms of the economic opportunities that open up. The number of jobs that open up are tremendous as we work towards solving the SDGs. A new blueprint is needed, a new blueprint that allows us to leverage the best of our CSR and philanthropy tools for those problems that have high social impact but low economic return. We're using philanthropies to invest in digital skills for refugees to give them access to the digital economy and well-paying jobs. There's not an immediate economic return on that. That's a philanthropic investment. But we also need to invest in social businesses that have high social impact and economic return that creates scale and sustainability. But it creates a level of scale that no philanthropic model can today for a publicly traded company. There are 4 million charitable organizations working on the front line of change. What do you think it takes to equip them with the technology and the capability they need to be able to predict the next Ebola outbreak, to be able to deliver the aid and supplies where it needs to be delivered, when it needs to be delivered, to be able to communicate and collaborate globally? 4 million organizations all around the world. It takes scale. And that's what we leaned into with our social business effort, and combined CSR, philanthropies, social businesses create a total social impact in the DNA of a company that sets it apart and allows it to have the impact that it should, given its economic position in the world. Now, taking a look at the social business component of what we have done, we've created a couple. I'm going to talk to you about one, and that's the Technology for Social Impact team that I have the honor of leading. We're learning a lot as we build this business, but there are a couple of key ingredients that we have learned that could be of use to you. Our social business has 4 ingredients, the first being combining this idea of mission and margin. And what this meant at Microsoft was bringing together a team of philanthropists, of engineers, of sales professionals, of business development professionals, all with the focus, singular focus, of helping every nonprofit in the planet transform with technology in a way that's sustainable and scalable. By bringing these people together, we create the focus and energy we need to deliver the impact that we're aiming for, but more importantly, we have a concentrated focus on building a culture that understands that we have to be able to pay the bills, but it's all about the mission of the organizations that we serve, and we strike that balance each and every day. The second key component of what we built was this focus. It's a technology buzzword if you're not in the technology sphere, of technology intensity. This is all about the intensity of technology to drive change in a business outcome or a social outcome. There are 3 things that were critical to unlock the technology intensity in the social impact sector. Number 1, technology companies in this room, and Microsoft included, need to do a much better job building solutions that are purpose-built for the nonprofit organizations. CRM platforms are great, but to configure those for volunteer management, program management, M&E, measurement and evaluation, fundraising is expensive, it's hard, it takes time. Many of the implementations fail. So how do we do a better job building those last mile configurations to lower the cost and increase the success rate? Second, it's great to have technology, but if nobody knows how to use it, it doesn't go very far in terms of mission impact. Our single biggest philanthropic investment is in training and building more capacity in organizations. There's a series of new investments that we're making so that every organization in the world, every nonprofit and the United Nations organizations included, have access to free and affordable training to use these technologies. Third, where is data going and where is all computation going? It's going into the cloud. So you have to trust us. We have to trust you. So building that trust into our relationship, along with the technology and the skills, creates technology intensity that drives mission impact. The next piece was scaling through partners. 4 million organizations are not going to be reached by my team alone. Even with a great online platform, 4 million organizations that need services, support, managed services are going to be reached by an army of partners. We're spending every single day working with our commercial partner ecosystem, thousands of great partners, convincing them that the nonprofit business is worth serving. It's a business that you can build in a financially reasonable way, but more importantly, you can contribute to the communities that you care about and build your brand. Finally, we're leveraging our corporate partnerships with the top 100 companies around the world, looking at how we can jointly invest in nonprofits and the missions they serve. Today I said, so 1 + 1 could equal 5, and somebody corrected me and said 1 + 1 needs to equal 1 million in terms of the kind of scaled change that we need to see through those partnerships. Now, when this all comes together, magic can be unlocked, and I'd like to give you one example of Compassion International that's working to unlock magic.
We're in a war against poverty. 400 million children are living on less than $1.90 a day. In 2016, 5.6 million children under the age of 5 died from preventable causes like malnutrition.
Pues en este momento estamos en la comunidad de Suculque. En lo general, Suculque es una de las comunidades más pobres de Huehuetenango. Los niños de nuestro departamento pues tienen muchas necesidades.
At Compassion, our approach to releasing children from poverty is the holistic child development model. We're able to help their economic needs, their physical needs, their social needs, and their spiritual needs.
Today, we are able to serve 2 million children, but at the rate that we are going, it would take us 10,000 years. We don't have 10,000 years. So we really want to change the growth trajectory from a linear to exponential.
As we look at the Compassion of Tomorrow, we want to understand what needs to be true for us to serve the kids that we don't serve today. What else can we innovate in?
We have so much data on what really works in terms of breaking the cycle of poverty with children and what doesn't work. We need to turn that data from 25 different countries around the world into useful information and insight.
Our goal is to turn data into a weapon to fight poverty. If I'm somebody who wants to help, how do I know that that need exists? Because not every child is the same, and I can use AI to be able to match both the person who can help support and the child who is ultimately needing the support. Working with Microsoft, AI allows us to do that in the tens of millions in ways that we couldn't do in one-to-one relationships before.
One thing we forget is that we don't have a choice into the family and circumstances that we're born into. The stories I tell you, I could have been one of them. You could have been one of them. Only when we are actually working together in unity to equip them for a life where they can contribute, then we will see a difference.
Hey, Phoenix, do we have 10,000 years to solve this? We do not. So let's lean in together with our social businesses, our philanthropy, and our CSR initiatives. Let's work together to create the change that we want to see in the world and we want the folks like Phoenix to take on. All right. Cheers. Thank you.